Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our show, Heart to Heart. My name is Madiha, and with me today I have Sister Masuma Jaffer, who is a resident Alima at Stanmore Mosque, and she also has qualifications in counselling. She has counselled hundreds of couples, individuals and families on various issues and topics in her time. Heart to Heart is a show that's all about the viewer, all about you, your problems, your issues, anything you might be facing at work or university or at home in your family life. You can email us at hearttoheart@safiratv.com with any of your questions or problems, and Sister Masuma will try her best to help you tackle them in a religious and practical manner, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Masuma. Thank you for joining us today on our show. We've had loads of people email in with various issues and topics. So I'm going to go right ahead and just go ahead with the first one. Mm-hmm. Let's see, I have a girl here in her mid-20s. She's emailed in to say, I'm in my mid-20s and I love everything to do with dressing up, going out, socializing, etc. But the thing is, I'm obsessed with my social media profile. If I don't get at least 25 likes a day for every new photo I upload, I get really down and upset. It's getting to the point now where I check my phone nearly every 10 minutes to see what people have commented about my posts. What is wrong with me, and what can I do to control this obsession? Now that's quite, I can imagine that to be quite a common sort of issue and problem amongst the, I guess, millennials, you'd say, of the world right now. How would you tackle this issue?
Well, she's identified the problem herself, because she said, what is my problem? Then she says, she has an obsession.
Yeah.
So obviously it has become an obsession. It's something that she's very addicted to. So she's identified that. Now it's a matter of, okay, how do I move forward from this? Mm-hmm. I think one of the things to realize is that we tend to have these relationships online because they're easier. To have a real relationship is much more difficult, because you decide when you want to respond to the person online. You have time to think things through before you respond. If they're upset with you, it's maybe across the world, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect you, face to face sort of thing. Mm. So I think one of the reasons why people have so many friends as such, mm-hmm. is one, it helps their ego. It makes them feel like they're liked, and and secondly, it's easier to actually build online friends than it is to have real friends in the real world.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head when you said ego. I mean, it's not necessarily. So do you think, obviously this person's asked for, is saying that 25 likes a day is what they wanted, otherwise they get really upset. So do you feel like maybe this person, of course has low self-esteem, but is needing validation or approval from the online platforms that she's on or he's on? Do you think that's something that they're facing?
Yeah, no, it seems like they are seeking approval, mm-hmm. From people out there.
Yeah.
Now, there's so many different things to consider. The fact that, everyone has their own subjective way of looking at things. Mm. Everyone sees beauty in a different way. Everyone sees fashion in a different way. Mm-hmm. Culture comes into it. Religion comes into it. Yeah. There's so many different things that come into it. So, when you're posting a picture up there, how the other person is perceiving it is from their own perspective, mm-hmm. With all their baggage that they have. Mm-hmm. So, it may be an amazing picture of you,
yeah.
but they may not like it because of religious purposes. Mm. They may not like it because they don't like the colour that you're wearing, because
could be that they're jealous. You just never know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's sad that, she's putting herself out there in order to get positive reaction from people who she doesn't really even know that well.
Yeah.
And secondly, she's actually seeing no reaction as negative reaction.
Yeah.
Whereas people may actually like the photo and not comment, because they're so busy in their real life.
Yeah, you do get. I think that's one of the things of social media. You get a lot of people looking at things but not actually doing. That's just one of the things that I think one of my friends was discussing, where you have this, like a news feed, like a live feed on Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat, for example, where you can see who's looked at it. But often people won't like your post. So you know that there are people that are looking at your posts, but they're not giving a reaction, which, as you said, some people say, if they're not liking it, that means that it's negative, which just isn't the case.
True, yeah.
Sometimes people just don't like to interact on
exactly.
or engage on.
Or maybe they're just too busy to interact, or maybe they're still trying to figure out what they think of that.
Yeah.
And it seems very much she seems very much into the way that she looks. So she talks about the beginning of dressing up and
going out, socializing.
Yeah, socializing, going out and everything. And again, I would maybe sort of flag up the hijab aspect here. In where does her idea of hijab come into it? And again, hijab is very, very subjective.
I don't know whether, by the way, it's a man or a woman. It could. I mean, I'm not going to make the assumption, but
but again, hijab comes in for both men and women, so it really doesn't matter. But I think I'll stop saying she because I'm assuming that it is a she, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But I think my outer being, the way I look, should not dictate my emotions and my feelings, and to this person it seems to, so much so that not even what they think of their own outer being, but what others think of their outer being. So I think that's quite a dangerous route to go down, because your emotions are dictated, the way you feel about yourself, whether you're happy or sad, are dictated by what others think of the way you look rather than the person you are. So it's not about, and that's the beauty of hijab. It takes away the looks, and it's more about who I am and what I'm saying.
Your mind and the person.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're saying if this person was confident in themselves, then whether they got 0 likes or 100, it shouldn't really make a difference to them.
I think there's lots of different things that come into play here. One is the confidence level.
Yeah.
2 is actually building real relationships. So they actually have people, because again, we're social creatures, and we need to have that interaction with other human beings. So having real relationships where people are actually telling her that she's an amazing person. Yeah. Because you've got friends around you who sort of say, I'm your friend for a reason.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be your friend if you were, if there wasn't anything to you, sort of thing. So having real relationships is really important. Having a relationship with God to build that confidence, and also to sort of understand where the limits of hijab are. So she's not crossing those boundaries, or he or she is not crossing those boundaries. And it's not about sort of, just my looks and the way that I come across, and trying to, because that's really dangerous as well, because what you'll try to do is just keep pushing the boundaries and pushing the boundaries. And then what you're doing is you're trying to get other people to accept you for the way that you look. And you may then decide to sort of go against your hijab in order to just get that acceptance as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot in there. I suggest on a practical basis, now that the person has identified that there is a problem, maybe try to cut it down. I think to go cold turkey might be a bit difficult.
Yeah.
So maybe sort of, instead of checking their profile every 10 minutes, maybe at the beginning do it to half an hour.
Yeah.
Or 20
Force
minutes
yourself
or something.
to sort of leave your phone on the side and not check it. Yeah.
And then sort of, and also before actually looking at your profile, maybe just sort of grounding yourself, sort of telling yourself, that you're an amazing person. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Maybe switching on, your mobile phone or whatever device you have with a Bismillah. So again, connecting yourself to the Creator rather than to the people there.
Yeah.
So, just grounding yourself before you actually look at your profile, then it won't be such a superficial act.
Yeah. But also I think if you're putting yourself, don't put yourself in a position where you would become disappointed if you don't get those 25 likes. If you're putting a photo up, then you're almost setting yourself up for disappointment if you don't get those likes. Whereas if you don't put it up at all, if it affects you that much, if you don't put it up at all, then you're setting your own expectations.
But again, I think that has to come slowly, because it's that approval that she's requiring. That's why he or she is putting the photo up there. Again, I think maybe cutting down the number of photos that you put up there, slowly. Again, doing it on a gradual basis. Gradual basis is really, really important. Also, I think one of the things maybe we need to discuss here is the idea of social hijab. Hijab on the internet and so forth. I think people tend to forget that there is a hijab there as well. I've seen girls who've put up photos of themselves without hijab, who are hijabis.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not real, so it's fine. They're not seeing me in real time.
Oh, okay.
Again,
yeah.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Or even not being aware of how your hijab is being compromised. So,
Yeah.
And I suggest, all the viewers to actually take out their phone and have a look at their own profile picture and see whether your hijab is being compromised. Sometimes our arm is showing a little bit of our hair is showing, the outfit is a little bit tight, or, we're sitting with our, with our legs crossed and our feet are showing, we've got no socks on us, things like that. Again, it's like, yes, our hijab is compromised at the time that we're doing it, but when you put it online, it's for everyone to see all the time.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, hey, I'm okay with disobeying Allah. I'm okay if my hijab is not perfect. I'm okay with, and it's that awareness is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, even the conversations that we have online, again, a lot of people are a lot more inhibited when they're talking online. They're sort of, that sort of line that's normally there when you're talking to face is not so much there, because you're in your own bedroom and you're quite relaxed, and some of the things that you may say would be against your hijab as well. So these are things that we need to be careful of.
Absolutely. Great. Okay, so move on to the second question that we've got today. I've got someone here that said, I'm in my mid-40s now and I want a career change. I've been working for the local council for about 15 years and I want to move on. However, in the past few years, I've become more religious, so now I have grown a beard. But since attending interviews as part of my career change into the banking sector, I find I'm being met with a lot of hostility and suspicion, even though it's very subtle. Should I stay in the public sector and just get by, or get rid of my beard and enter the corporate world? I want to be a good role model for my children and younger siblings.
First and foremost, alhamdulillah, that he's got to the stage where he's now keeping a beard.
Yeah.
That's something to be proud of. That's something, great, good on you. One of the things to realize is that when we start moving on our path towards Allah, when we start doing things which are wajib and staying away from, things which are haram, shaitan will come into play very, very quickly. So the fact that he's putting all these the idea that he's not getting a job in the field that he's looking for is because of his beard. Is, I think, in this day and age, I can't see that being the only factor or even the greatest factor, because there are lots of people in the banking world which do have beards. And as long as your beard is well groomed and it doesn't look scruffy, it shouldn't be a problem.
And nowadays, actually, having a certain style of beard, especially the long ones, are in fashion. So that's definitely the case. I think it, would you agree that it might, if someone isn't confident in their own choices, for example, on my hijab, or a man if he's on his own choice to keep a beard, that will always play in his head as this is the reason why I'm not getting where I want to.
And maybe that
in life.
Unconfidence in that small thing is coming out as unconfident in his own abilities. So he needs to be careful of that. I think one of the things that I would advise him is to realize that he is doing this for the sake of Allah, and risk comes from Allah. So if his niyat is clean and he's keeping this beard because that's what Allah has told him to, then why would Allah not give him the best job available? It doesn't make sense. So understanding that everything comes from Allah, including your job opportunities, your financial circumstances, everything. And the fact that he says the option of should I take it off? What did he?
He said, should I get rid of my beard?
Should I get rid of my beard?
The corporate world.
That should not even be a factor. That is not a question he should be asking, because to take it off is actually going, doing something that is haram, and that should not come into play. The fact he's also said that he wants to be a role model for his children
and younger siblings.
Younger siblings. Yes, that's a great thing to try to achieve, to try to work towards, but he needs to do it for himself first and foremost. He needs to do it for his own soul, for his own for his own hereafter, and then it will come across more authentic. If you're trying to be something for someone else, it doesn't come across very authentic, and you tend to give up when it becomes too difficult.
True, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, great. So I'll move on to the next question. Someone's written in and said, I know that this might sound strange, but so many things are going wrong in my life. There has just been one disaster after another, which has convinced me that I have been cursed with black magic by someone in my community. How can I get rid of its effect and continuously protect myself against such things?
Okay. First of all, I think it's the definition of things that are going wrong in my life. Sometimes what we perceive as something that's wrong or bad or is actually good for us. So I think that's really, really important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran tells us that you may like something that is evil for you, and you may that is good for you, and you may dislike something that is good for you, sort of thing. So I think it's important to realize that we're looking at it from a very limited knowledge and obviously restricted by time. Sometimes something comes into our life which, on hindsight, when you look back and you think, wow, that was real growth for me. It's like the English saying, what doesn't kill you
makes you stronger.
So and you see those people who have a really strong personality, who are who've really made something of themselves, is because of the trials and tribulations that they've gone through in their life, because that's what builds you as a character. So I think a lot of the times we're faced with things which are difficult at the time, which we feel are wrong or which we feel are bad for us, but it's the making of us. So that's really important to realize. And sometimes we want something which is not good for us, or sometimes something's taken away from us because it's not good for us. So God's not taking it away because as a punishment. He's taking it away because that's not helping me in my growth. So out of love, He takes it away. For example, if I have a child and I give a toy to a child, and the child gets so engrossed in that toy that he or she does nothing but play with that toy. They refuse to eat, they refuse to go to sleep, they refuse to go to the bathroom. As a loving parent, I will take that toy away, not because I want to punish that child, but because I need them to understand that there is more to life than this toy. And again, God may choose to do that for us when we get so engrossed in something that we forget that He is the one that we're supposed to be focused on, that He is supposed to be my compass. He is the one that I'm supposed to be connected to. Then He may choose to take it away just in order to refocus me back to Him. And when I am refocused back to Him, He may give it back to me, or He may give me even something even better, because it was never done as a punishment. So I think that's really, really important to realize. It comes to the issue of black magic. Yes, it is there in Islam. There's no doubt about it. There is, but it's not as widespread as we think. And I think it's very easy for us to put everything down to black magic. In so much so, it's like, we have within the Holy Quran again, where God says, that we make jinn associates with Him. So, and the way we're doing shirk when it comes to jinn and black magic and the evil eye and najjar and all of these things is that we feel that they are so strong that we actually put them above God. And I'll explain how. God has given us tools to counteract these things. So, for example, we have the four calls, especially Surah Falaq and Surah Nas, which are very, very highly recommended to protect you from this. You have Ayatul Kursi, you have Surah Fatiha, which is a remedy for all illnesses except death. You have Sadaqah, so we have all these tools that are given to us, which we can use, and yet we think these things are more powerful. So the Creator is giving us tools which we think are not as powerful as the jinn that the Creator has created.
So what if we're doing all of those things, all of the surahs, all of the du'as, all of and plenty of sadaqah, and we still have these issues and problems, and we have to accept that they're from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and embrace them? Or
exactly. So it's again going back to what I started off with, saying not to identify things from my perspective, but to realize that God is in control, and whatever He gives me is for my growth. So whenever anything happens in my life which throws me off balance a little bit, my first reaction should be, where's the growth in this? What is God trying to teach me here? How is he trying to bring me closer to him here?
And do you think that you're always able to identify a lesson every single
No,
time?
not always. And that then it becomes more difficult. And that's when then I will sit there and have a huge conversation with God. It's like, I'm not seeing it. Please, I need you to show me where it is, because I'm really not seeing it. Because I think when I can't see the growth, when I can't see what he wants me to see, it's much more difficult for me to be okay with it.
But then isn't tawakkul sort of just, even if you don't understand it?
But again, it's stage by stage, right?
Yeah.
So it's again, small steps. So first step is realizing that everything comes from him.
Yeah.
And even though we realize it, it doesn't necessarily mean we have yaqeen in it.
Yeah.
So the tawakkul is when you have the yaqeen. So first is realizing it, maybe trying to find out where the growth is, trying to figure out what God is trying to teach you, having conversations with him. And again, when it gets too much, talk to him, tell him. It's like the sad thing is we limit our conversations with God in salah or reciting the Holy Quran. Whereas we could actually be just talking to him all the time. He's my friend, he's my counselor, he's my, he's the entity that I turn to when I'm happy, when I'm sad, when I'm, down, when I want to share something amazing that's happened in my life. He will be the one I talk to first and foremost before I turn to my family and friends and so forth.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important, because one, you've always got someone there, so you never feel lonely or alone. Secondly, you're talking to someone who can give you solutions. Again, when you open yourself up to his solutions, then you'll actually get solutions which are out of the box solutions a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're only thinking a certain way and those solutions aren't working, and we need him to give us solutions which we may not have thought of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which are slightly out of the box solutions. So it's like Prophet Musa. When Pharaoh's army was coming towards him and the Red Sea was in front of him, he would never have thought of hitting the sea and spreading it asunder, sort of thing. That came from Allah. So it's even with his mum, when she told him to put him in the basket. Again, what mother would put their child in a basket and let it go into the river?
Yeah.
So these solutions,
sometimes the impossible can seem possible when you've got
exactly. But we would never think of those solutions, and it's only when we open ourselves up to him and talk to him and have those conversations, and actually just let him tell us what the solution is, so that we realize that there's a different way of looking at it, and then trusting him. And sometimes even when we're doing the solutions, we have a certain result in mind, and when it doesn't play out to that result, then we think that solution was wrong. But the result maybe is what God wants, not what we want. Again, the result is not in our hands, and a lot of the times the result is again for our growth.
So these going back to the surahs that you were speaking about, is that something that someone should be reciting on a daily basis?
Yes, for sure.
And is there anything else except for those du'as and sadaqah that you would recommend? I mean, have you got any Quranic ayats or hadith about
so the Quranic,
these kind of things?
the Quranic verses, the Quranic surahs that have been recommended for this specifically is for Surah Falaq and Surah Nas.
Right.
To a lot of the times people wear taweez, and yes, taweez work, but I think it's much more powerful when you know what is in the taweez.
Right.
So, when you go to Maulana and ask him to give you a taweez and he writes something down and you wear it, I think, obviously, if it's Quranic verses that he's written, they will have an effect on you. But can you imagine if you're actually reciting those Quranic verses yourself and living those Quranic verses?
Right.
Maybe make your own taweez. So write the Surah Falaq and Surah Nas and actually put it on a cloth and tie it. What's to stop you doing that and tying it to yourself?
Right.
Why does it have to come from a Maulana?
Right.
Isn't it more powerful if you yourself have written it? And then you're reciting it. So reciting it, constantly is really, really important, because these, Surah Nas is from the evils from within, and Surah Falaq is from the evils from the outside. So and it actually talks about those women who used to blow on the knots. So that is a form of black magic.
Right.
So whatever whoever has done black magic, and black magic is very real.
Yeah.
It's not as strong as the surah that you would recite to counteract that.
Absolutely.
The problem is when we recite it, we don't have yaqeen on it.
Yaqeen on it, yeah.
And when we don't have yaqeen on it, when we don't have that trust and certainty on it, then
it
can't play. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it's having that sort of, yes, I'm sure this is going to work.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, as we get older, the less certainty we have in these things.
Yeah.
When,
It's almost
you know,
ritualistic then sometimes, isn't it?
yeah, and I think, you know, when you see children and when you teach it to children, the way that they recite it, and you know, they're so sure it's going to happen,
Yeah.
and it always happens for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when they pray for something, and it's like,
Yeah.
why are you told, you know, ask children, and we're told, oh, ask them because they've committed less gunas. Honestly, yes, that's maybe part of it, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's because they are certain that God's
Yaqeen,
listening to them.
Yeah.
When we're asking, but we're thinking, really, will it?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know, God is what you. What you know, the idea you have of him in your mind, and if you're thinking he's not going to listen to you, then
Yeah.
that's how it's going to play out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining us on our show today. We have actually come to the end of our show, and would just like to thank Sister Masuma for all her help, advice, practical tips, and religious advice that she's given us for our viewers. As I said, our viewers are more than welcome to email us at hearttoheart@safiratv.com with your problems, issues, anything you might be facing at university or work or at home, and Sister Masuma will try her best to help you tackle them. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.